Welcome. I have to get myself off mute there. And yes, this is the September Toronto Electronic Music Producers Meetup. Um, we have basically a format where everyone who is part of the event is sharing music. We listen to music and then provide feedback. Everyone here already knows the format, but in the off chance anyone is tuning in now or later, just to set the stage. And yeah, we have basically a few. Well, because we have less attendees than usually we play one track each. So tonight I think we'll probably do two optionally, if you can still do one, obviously. But yeah, so hopefully the sound is coming through okay. That's another thing I'll mention. We're going to be streaming to Twitch and to YouTube. I find that sometimes you can get some anomalies I've noticed with Twitch, specifically like warping. So one way to fix that is to like refresh. So it could be your local browser is buffering, just to throw that out there. I personally found that YouTube has better sound than Twitch more consistently, but lots of people are happy with Twitch. But you can try either or. Paul just asked in the chat. That's a remix I did, so I can't really say it's an original track, but it's something I have up my sleeve for DJ sets. So I'm sort of creating my own VIP mixes, I guess. In the meantime, I did change the drums around, but it's one of those things. But it probably would fly under the radar of the copyright detection AI. We'll see what YouTube has to say about that after it gets archived. But I have a feeling it's going to just fly just underneath the radar. But still, at the end of the day, I've been featuring Vostel's music for I think 2 or 3 months in a row, and I just thought, okay, I don't want to make him feel like he's the you know what I mean, the whatchamacallit, mandatory uh, soundtrack for our meetups. So I encourage, by the way, any of you who are interested to make an intro video, believe me, the door is wide open. And if you have any suggestions, I just figure um, at one point we might find an intro that really clicks, and we'll just keep reusing that one. We'll see if there's new ones we can do every month. So far, I've been doing a new one every month, and I got a new plugin that I'm going to be testing tonight too during the meetup. So when we play back music, um, since Phil's not here, I've got like a much more basic visualizer, but nonetheless, it's and I'm thinking in the future I might research and get some more views, so some different EQs to go along when we play back music. But anyway, so yeah, so without any further ado, I guess, unless anyone wants to bring up anything. Richard, I know you last month you had previewed a piece that goes back, I think, 40 years, if I remember correctly. I guess you're still in progress with that, but keep us up to date with any announcements. If there's any information you want to share either now or later, we can always add it to the chat and provide links. So, but it sounds like a real exciting project that you have there.
Well, at least two people are excited, myself and the producer.
Well,
Um,
three people. You don't count myself in.
and you. Paul, I don't know if you were in the last session. I think Andrew can't remember who was in the call, but I've contacted a early electronic music producer. There's a series of tapes that were located in a refrigerator in a styrofoam cooler in Austin, Texas, and I've retrieved all of those, and all of those are now being. I've gone through and what's the right word? They were DAT sampled from a half-inch audio master from about 1980. And it turned into something on the order of about 17 audio CDs worth of extended pieces, two or three versions of them, several remixes, little fragments, and what have you. So the fellow is no longer really connected to the world of electronic music, doesn't even own a computer. So, I've made these 17 audio CDs. I was in Austin a few weeks back, took them down with a extensive listing of every single track, and I'm having him go through and just do a brain dump of where they were recorded, what they are, anything interesting, noteworthy about them. So there'll be several CDs or the equivalent rather of several albums worth of material. And hopefully that's going to start taking shape here in the next few months and probably with the idea for releasing it next year sometime. I'm excited. I'll play another piece if you want, if there's extra time. Um,
Yeah,
I can.
definitely. I think there will be. So yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Send it across. Yeah.
That sounds like quite a project.
Yeah, it's more than I anticipated. I'd known this fellow when I was at university, and we had worked together, and just sort of lost track. And his life went off in a different direction for sure. And I just sort of made an inquiry, and that led to, yeah, I'm interested. And where's the music? Oh, I haven't played it in 40 years. It's sitting in my, just going to fetching it and going through hours and hours and hours of making WAV files out of these analog files. It's been interesting. Um, Talk about retro plenty.
Yeah, yeah. But it's like a time capsule. So it's very, very awesome.
More to come. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. So, okay, without any further ado, I will go ahead and spin the wheel here. I'll share my screen and alrighty, let's see. I think I got all the names tonight. Alrighty, Andrew.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Hope everyone's having a good night. And, you know, Lenny, you were talking about, well, I don't want to bring up that topic again, but you were talking about AI taking over machines and people spending money. That's happening in my industry right now. So it's quite scary. But anyway, on a brighter note, I have, the track I selected to play today is called Chewing My Cud. Uh, it's kind of a talk between the bass drum and the snare drum. You might catch it. It kicks in at about maybe halfway through the track. Um, the beginning kind of is medieval-ish, and it's something that's a little different than what I'm usually trying to accomplish when I make music. So it's the second one from the top called "Chewing My Cud," Lenny, and the
Okay,
link.
I will set it up as I talk a little bit here to make sure I got the right sound. Second, chewing my cud. Okay,
Yeah.
got that. And let me just line up the sound here. Bear with me a second. Okay, yeah, I'll switch over. So there could be like a brief delay, but don't worry, it'll play
Is that
eventually.
because I'm sending it on SoundCloud?
Yeah, I mean, uh, that in combination.
What would be more preferred if I sent you the WAV file directly?
Well, it's really your preference. I think the
Okay.
WAV file or MP3 is better sound
Okay.
quality,
Yeah. All right. So
and
I'll do
you're
that
you're
next
you're
time.
not you're not like rolling the dice with everything. However, I got a new computer that handles resources fairly well, and I got 5 gigabit Ethernet, so supposedly, or I mean internet, and so the bandwidth is okay. But at the end of the day, you're always at the mercy of you know the sound compression that's on that website going through the browser, then my computer relaying it again. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And the other thing is that Um, I can create custom scenes in OBS just to get technical. This is kind of like behind the curtains here, but just to explain the process, right? I'm not. I honestly, I don't mean anything by this. Don't take it the wrong way. Like I'm very direct. If I want to say something, I'll just say it. But let's say I had this link an hour ago, I would have had it set up, right? And I just clicked the button, and then it would be good. But because I just got it now in the last 2 minutes, as I'm literally
Oh,
talking, I have to
sorry,
do
dude.
that as I'm talking, right? So
Okay.
just saying. And I do
Sorry,
have
man.
it in the event. I know people don't read. I swear to God, I swear it is not a big deal, but this is the consequence of it. So don't blame me if it's not like completely like
I'm not blaming you for
broadcast
anything. I appreciate,
television
yeah.
perfection that we're all used to. Oh my God, I have 5 seconds of a black screen. Oh, how dare! It's like, dude, you know what I mean? I got 20 screens here. And I know I get this kind of feedback every once in a while and say, I think we should be happy that things work as good as they do half the times. You know what I mean? To be straight up honest with you, I'm in
So, Ed,
technology
do you agree?
support, so trust me. Like I hear all kinds, and it's like it's I personally am very like nimble with like jumping around from like a keyboard here, a monitor there, ripping this computer out, and you know what I mean. That's my life. But I'm just saying other people are more polished. That comes with a certain amount of there's pros and cons, right? You know what I mean? It's kind of like a live sporting event. You're not going to have maybe the perfect editing, right? But when you have like a crew of, let's say, 5 cameramen and a producer and $1 billion budget, they can do all kinds of things, you know. And I'm also learning OBS. That's the other thing. I'm not exactly an expert on it. So little by little, I'm starting to understand this program. So, but anyway, I appreciate your patience, guys. I'm just gonna flip over to the browser playback here, and let's give this a listen.
Yeah, so that was something I whipped together in about 2 weeks. I worked on it last month. I finished it up and I decided I wanted to share it with you guys. It's been a little difficult for me to come up with some new stuff, but I think this one was better than a lot of the stuff that I was working on in the near past, I should say. So this is something I wanted to share with you guys. But
Well,
thanks for listening.
I liked it. I felt that as it went on, I enjoyed it more. I thought it really started to settle in. At the beginning, there was a couple of things happening, but then when you started with the bass, that then it all started to really come together for me. I quite liked it. I thought it was quite creative and very different than what you're often doing, Andrew.
Well, thank you. It's kind of what I was going
Yeah,
for, I guess.
I really felt like the I think you mentioned like the drop bass and the snare, like it almost felt like a call and response between the beats, and I don't know, it was really like dark in a way that I haven't really heard from you in other tracks, and it kind of reminded me of like almost more of an IDM kind of slant as opposed to the EDM that we often hear from you. But I really dug it, and definitely have no production notes. It sounded clear and loud and punchy.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I thought it was my dad taught me that call and response thing back when I was a kid, and I never really put it into practice. So,
Mm,
so I did it on this track. So it was something that came back and
nice.
I reminded myself. Yeah, yeah. But I'm glad you picked that up too. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
That's that's really cool to hear. You guys like it. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I missed part of the conversation at the beginning. Were you saying this is a newer track, right, Andrew?
Yeah, 2 weeks. I was working on it for 2 weeks, but I was working on it about a month and a half ago. About a month ago, I posted it. Sorry, I posted it recently, but I finished it about a month ago, and I came up with it in about 2 weeks, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'm a
So,
suck. I was going to say I'm a sucker for anything that sounds in reverse, and there was a lot of that. Very cool sound. I'm just curious if you process it in reverse, or they were actually reversed sounds, or did I just imagine the whole thing?
no, no, there was those reverse sounds in there, but I didn't go into the software and reverse any sounds. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't really screw around with the stock sounds and reasons. I buy a lot of refills and different instruments and
Mhm.
that kind of thing, but I don't really go into the detail of the hardware or the software hardware and start messing with the knobs and the dials, and
Mhm.
I don't understand all that kind of stuff. I just go with what sounds good by ear, I guess. But no, those sounds I didn't manipulate. No.
Gotcha. Well, part of it is listening, right? It's all in what it sounds like in the end, and making the whole montage of sounds palatable and pleasing, and certainly it was all of those things, and rhythmic to boot. So awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
whatever works, right? And I've said this before, and I don't mind saying it again. Andrew, I've seen your music in action with an audience, and people like it. So it's not just us, you know what I mean? And it's not just,
Yeah, I know. I'm lazy when it gets out to doing self promotion. That's for sure. Part of it's
Me
not
too.
really wanting to go out to clubs anymore, but it's just I'm getting on, and it's just not something that I have which may sound crazy, a passion for going out and DJing my own stuff. If someone wants to DJ my stuff, that's great. I'll be all for it. But I'm not a DJ as well. I just create the music, and I'm very uncomfortable on stage. Maybe you guys can pick up. I'm a little uncomfortable in public situations, but I try to make the best of it. And I appreciate that that nod again from you, Lenny.
Yeah, well,
There's a couple times I was out. It was nice. Yeah.
yeah, and I don't, I mean it, I meant it also from the perspective that that people appreciate your music. That's really what I was trying to say. So it's not an actual performance thing. I was just trying to say that, it's proof, right? Like if, a lot of stuff sounds good in your own head or whatever, like myself, and then you put it out there and it's like, that's weird. No one else seems to like this. You know what I mean? But your
Yeah.
music people actually like. I'm trying to say, like I have a pretty good vibe for it, right? Like we have a. I'm not saying it's a perfectly scientific, you know what I mean, sampling size of like millions of people, but for the few times with the dynamic that was there, yeah, man, it's very positive. So yeah, I just wanted to give you that encouragement because
Okay.
you know, if
Well,
if I give credit where credit's due, I try anyway.
okay. Are you
Yeah,
still
man.
are you still doing Sunday nights or anything like that?
No,
Or
not really, to be honest. I'm kind of like this year has been a kind of preoccupied with other things, but I'll get back into it one way or the other. You know what I mean?
right?
I'm building right now. I've switched over a lot to production. Frankly, I've really caught the itch more and more. Whereas I was really DJing has helped my production. That's the other thing. I know I kept saying this over and over again, but I honestly, just by mixing in many different ways. One way, the mixing, you create new compositions on the fly. You're mixing different tracks, and you get an ear for, wow, certain things that you can use in production. You know what I mean? Those
Yeah.
combinations, if you will, right? And the other thing is seeing how it works, as I was describing earlier with what I was describing with your stuff is, you play three bangers and then you play a track you produced and you can kind of see, oh, okay, this is where now I get it. Now I can sort of hear that, yeah, like, I thought it was one way, but in contract with this other stuff, you know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know if I'm articulating it in the best way, but I think it's rubbed off on my production if I could just rephrase it another way. And I find it's kind of like the other thing I'll say is that I kind of wanted to be not listening to too much of other people's music as I'm making my own. Put it that way. Like when I'm DJing, I'm listening to other people's music constantly, right? So I'm actually just shutting it off for a bit and just focusing on my own stuff. You know what I mean? So, and
Okay.
plus, no one's really forking over a huge, amount of money my way to DJ either. So, uh, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Considering my skill level, I'm just saying, like, I gotta pick my, but I'm ready to go back to back, toe to toe with any drum and bass DJ, even outside of this planet. I just want to throw that out there. Okay, so just in case. So if you want to keep, you want to put the action to the words, here I am. Okay, here I
Can
am.
we quote you on that?
Yes,
We'll write it
yes.
down.
And you can check my archives. Never done the same set twice, and it's always new. So, just throwing it out there. But anyway, it's enough. Did you want to play another tune, Andrew?
Sure. Play Funny Things, the one on top of that.
Okay, all right.
Something you can march to. Something you can march to.
Yeah, I quite like that. That was great, Andrew.
All right, thank you. That's a little
There,
happier than the other one I played earlier, but
yeah, there was a part when you had sort of like a bit of a solo going on in there that I quite liked. Just before I put in "very nice," I just I thought that was just a great uh, set of you know notes put in there. That was great.
well, a little bit of little melody there. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Cool. Thank you very much. I don't want to take up too much time because I know that those two songs are over 10 minutes, but maybe uh, next time we'll have, a bigger turnout and no hog up as much time.
Well, no, it's
So,
good to have a little bit extra time, and to be honest with you, this is a good example of what I was talking about earlier, man. So thank you for sharing, Andrew. It's always great,
great. Thank you.
awesome stuff.
Andrew, you're a natural. You have a really good sense of timing. You know, the way you describe your own music is, very self-effacing, but it's very lyrical.
Yeah.
If you're just relying on, your internals telling you this sounds good, this doesn't sound good, and whatever internal compass is you're listening to, it's taking you to the right place, So it's very nice. Keep doing it, and you are,
All right.
so which is great. So
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
I like that word you use, lyrical, Richard. Definitely. Like there's always strong lead synth, and like it's almost like a vocal, kind of how you approach the melodies. And yeah, I enjoy it.
And
Awesome.
I don't hear folks actually playing the keyboard that much anymore. And I like that. Hopefully I'm going to play a piece and I actually started playing the keyboard again. So maybe tonight's the night for that sort of thing. So I really liked it.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and spin the wheel. Okay. Alrighty, Paul, perfect timing.
Oh shit. Awesome. Well, let's start with the SoundCloud link I'll you, and I'll email over the other one in a moment.
Alrighty.
Got nothing new. Yeah, been spending a lot of time up here this summer, and also I mixed and mastered a rock album. A friend of mine's um did use plugin. Gonna play it here just because it's yeah. Encourage you to take a listen though. We're kind of 90s style. There is a synth on that track, but this first track I'm sharing with you is actually from
And Paul,
2018.
you may also want to throw that link in the Twitch and actually the YouTube as well. Chat. That way people can just
Yeah.
click on it. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Um, but I was gonna say, this track's from 28. As a lot of you know, I use Ableton as my main DAW. But when I was growing up as a kid in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was all about groups, and I had an FL Studio license.
Oh, just froze on me. I don't know about anyone else. Paul, you there? Richard, you're on mute. I might just.
Maybe Paul should disable his video to save bandwidth. Might get the sound through.
I wonder if he's hearing us.
Yeah, maybe I'll type it in the chat here. But we can play his tune in a second
That's a
here. I
good
just.
point. That's a good
Paul.
point. See if he's actually he is. Oh no, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe shut off your video.
He's
He may
gone.
He
Yeah.
may join again.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Let's play his tune in the meantime. You know, when he gets, hopefully by the time he rejoins us, like when the tune's over, he'll be back. So let's give it a listen.
Okay.
And yeah, joining us from the campsite. You know, so we got people all everywhere. Okay.
that a lot. It just there's so much happening. I've got to really
Mm.
pay attention, but you brought it all together. It's all so well integrated. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I never shared this song of this group because I feel there is a bit too much going on. It's almost 5 minutes of the same theme, and I feel like I've evolved like at least my arrangement ability over time. But I mean, the core sounds are there, and there was literally like I hadn't made music in 5 years. Dropped a couple $100 at Plugin Boutique, bought this complete 12, rebooted FL Studio, and I'm like, all right, let's make a song, and that's what I came up with. So yeah, it's something I'd like to go back to at least some more in that kind of hip hop style. I did make a lot of hip hop tracks back in the day, so
Well, I really like it. I think it has a lot of commercial appeal. I just like a lot of stuff. I'll listen to it and I go, yeah, but this is engaging. I
mhm.
really have to listen to what's going on.
Appreciate that, Jeff.
I got a riddle from Muddy there in the chat. I have no clue, but I passed the message along.
Uh, I don't know. I don't
Muddy,
know the Hilliards. I'm a Hilliard, but I did work with a Sarah Hilliard at one point earlier in my career.
anyway, great track though, Paul. I really enjoyed it, and I don't know. It had. I'm trying to think of it. It has. I have to listen to it again, but it has a real draw to it. Like there's something about that. I don't know what element it is, but there's an element there that is that's extremely like I don't know. It just it works. I think it has almost. I don't know. I don't know what. I'm kind of at a loss for how to describe it, but it just sounded like a really good track, to be honest with you. Like
Mm,
it had, it's. I even like. I kind of turned my head away and I was listening to. It. I'm like, wow, this is like really good. You know what I mean? I caught myself thinking that. So sorry that took so long to explain, but sort of
oh, awesome.
the vibe I got
Appreciate
from
that.
it. But
Paul, how old is that track, Paul?
That would be like early 2018.
18.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
it's in,
And
I found your comment interesting about how your composition has evolved since then, and I'm just sort of curious, how you might, if you're going to use this as a starting piece, evolve it from where it is, because it's very interesting, very dense. Um, but
yeah,
your point is well taken, I guess. Towards the end, it's essentially the same as it was at the beginning. So I know in my own evolution, you get a sound, you like the groove, and I could listen to it for hours, and then you realize you listen to it later,
you
it's like,
did. Yeah, yeah.
damn, that's boring. I mean, it hasn't really gone
Hmm.
anywhere. And
Hmm.
so, I mean, that's just part of evolving and becoming a little more sophisticated about the composition process and keeping the listener engaged and evolving the theme and
Yeah,
moving on to making the composition more interesting.
exactly. I think the key thing I would do in this piece is add a B section, and also cut down the repetition of the same theme twice. Like it actually goes twice over the 4.5 minutes. Like that's what I would do. I would add a whole new middle section and then
Yeah.
just make it more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool. Do it.
awesome. So
yeah, you have
I
a
did send
second
you
too,
another
right?
one, Lenny,
Yeah, yeah, I got it.
and
I saw it. So
nice. And this is the last song I made before I took a break from music. So this one's 11 years old, 2013, and back then I was playing more bass guitar. I was in a band more so than doing electronic. But then the band dissolved and I just kind of put it on the back burner for a few years. But this is a more like almost like ambient bass guitar driven piece, but also using drum machine and synths stock from Ableton Live.
all right, well, let's give it a listen.
Very chill, very cool. I liked it, man. Very
It's
chill, very cool.
so different than the last piece, that had so much, and this is like, like, yeah, but I love that. You play so many different styles over the years, and yeah,
Mm,
yeah, this was really good. I thank you.
appreciate that, guys. Oh,
Yeah, it definitely has kind of a rock vibe to it. I can definitely hear that influence there. And like you were saying, it's like a a slower turn, a
slow burner. Yeah,
tune,
yeah.
a slow burner, but like it does the trick. I mean, it's you got all the elements there, I think.
And I think this also it's fun to go back to stuff you made a long time ago sometimes and just think back about where you were when that happened, right? Like I remember I had just moved out of my girlfriend's place into like my sister's basement, and this is where I recorded this, and like live to session mode using a shitty little MIDI controller, and it's just like, you've seen my studio. It's a little more populated with stuff now, but just simple things, stock instruments and my bass guitar. Yeah.
I have to say I'm really loving listening to these earlier tracks because you can see the trail of where how you got to where you are today, and
Hmm.
to your point, you record them, out, get excited about them, and put them away because you do other stuff, and then they're just forgotten, and this is really cool pulling these things out and just listening to the sort of more historical pieces. They just inform who you are, and that's I don't know. I've never done that before.
For
I'm thinking
sure.
this is really cool.
And this is why it's important to put your shit on SoundCloud, because that first song I played from 2018, I couldn't find a WAV or MP3 to send to Lenny, so apparently I only have it up on SoundCloud. So it's like, oops, I better download that. But you know, I lost a good 2 years of music when I moved to South Korea in 2006, because while I was gone, my computer was stolen from my, I guess, sister's husband's basement. But so yeah, thank God for the cloud.
Yeah, I had a track that was on mp3.com. If you guys remember that, I think the year 2000. It
Yep,
was pretty popular in
I
the
got a
era of
story about
Napster, I suppose.
mp3.com.
Well, there's an archive of every track that's ever been on mp3.com, and that's how, including my own. And someone reached out to me, and I was like, "What?
Mm,
There's an archive?" So yeah, I checked it out, and sure enough, there it was. So it's pretty cool.
I'm
And
probably on there as Embryosis, and I actually ended up making $300 from my mp3.com profile because I signed up early and I said I sound like Britney Spears, and some pop artist in Europe was like, "Hey man, I'll send you a money order for $300 if you give me your account credentials and let me become you." And I was like, "Sure." um,
wow,
so that was the first time I got paid for music, and
there's
it was
people
just because I
making
had signed
money.
up for
Yeah,
mp3.com as a kid.
yeah. No, I
Yeah,
knew a
and
guy
I
that was
played their
making like.
very simple algorithm.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that people did get. Although that's a pretty cool story. But I know people that
Yeah.
were making like regular monthly getting checks. Like if you made over $10, I think they would mail out a check or something. And it was all based on how many people. I think I don't know if they called it likes or not, but basically, is if a bunch of people clicked it, you know what I mean? You would basically be more popular or whatever. So, but there was some good music on it. You know what I mean? There was a lot of, but I think it was 128 kilo like bit rate or whatever. So very low bit rate MP3. And I wish I would have had a higher bit rate. That's my only, you know, whatever regret, I suppose. But yeah, I lost a computer that had the original on it. So that's basically all that is left is the 128 kilobit MP3. Anyway, I think we'll go ahead and spin the wheel. We lost Paul there, but that was a pretty good track. Oh, let me just switch screens here. Alrighty. Okay, Jeff, want to talk about your track?
Yeah. So this one's Alvin 13. It's called, and or Alvin gets his nuts. So it's largely autobiographical, you know, and it's totally. I had this sort of sound maybe about, I don't know, 6 8 weeks ago, and it's like a scream, and then all of a sudden I said, do I just dump this or do I move ahead with it? So it's largely just an emotional kind of piece. I don't know if it really how how well it really works. You could tell me, but I had a lot of fun with it, and it's a big scream, and it's like Alvin and the Chipmunks going crazy. Like, okay, so I think if you see my page there, Lenny, you could see there's the chipmunk there. Yeah, with his nuts. And yeah, so just a puberty. Yeah, there he is. There he is. Yep, yep, yep. So it's
true
just
story you're saying.
Oh yeah, totally autobiographical. You know, like Alvin and the Chipmunks were always a little bit like on helium to begin with. So you know,
Right.
yeah. So we'll take this. I don't know how it ended up in product. Like I don't know how it will come across from a production point of view. I wasn't 100% sure. But
I didn't
anyway.
Pre-screen this, Jeff. This isn't going to get.
Yeah. I think you'll be able to handle it. Yeah. So give it a go there, Lenny.
All right. Let's check it out.
place for me there.
Very danceable, Jeff.
All right.
So definitely
And-
funky, that's for sure.
You could have danced
How
to
did
it in
you
the 20s,
compose?
and the 30s even. You know? It
How
transcended
did you
time.
play or compose the car part?
The car part?
Like the lead part, the guitar part.
Okay. So
The
it's
lead.
yeah. So that's more or less a like an oboe. It's like a Turkish oboe.
Oh.
Right. So and then I've got two of them sort of moving back and forth and panning a little bit between with some effects and a lot of automation in there, right? To move it through. Yeah, a lot of like just background ambient. So I wasn't sure how it came across as a production because largely speaking, it was about like it was just an emotional thing for me. I almost dropped the piece. I just like at one point because I had that sound and I just wasn't sure if it really worked or if it was just a little too much, right? But it was some fun.
Um, so I only saw one track from you, Jeff, but
So when you're looking there on the when you had that one up, did you see other tracks underneath there?
I think so. Yeah. Let me
Okay,
double
so
check
just
again.
I just want to see what you can see there. If you see one that says Bell's 5, just scroll down a little. Do you see one that says Bell's 5?
No.
Okay, it's probably so. These are links that I had sent to you, unless I sent one to you right now. But even then, I'd have to go in. Don't worry about it. The one's fine for me.
Okay, I was just showing the screen. Well, I could play another one. All right, Jeff. I don't want to put.
No, it's okay. If you had Bell's 5, I would say play that. It's almost like it's quite different. Or I could maybe I could try sending it. I could try sending it over to you a little later. I'll
Yeah.
look
Okay.
for.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
cycle back to it.
You know what? Yeah. You know what? I didn't want to. I'll do that. Why don't you go ahead with somebody else, and I'll send it over as a link.
All right. Okay. Let's go ahead and share the screen here. It was 50-50, Richard. Man, I tell you, so close. But yeah, okay. I have a track that I'll just play it, and we'll see what you guys think, I guess. And I'll just leave it like that at that for now. And yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, I like that, Lenny. That was quite something.
Thanks.
Aggressive, driving,
Yeah.
persistent, um, rhythmic.
It's it's almost like you did a little bit of dubstep there in the beginning, and then kind of switched up. So you were doing halftime at the beginning, and then switched it up to double time, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that was I don't know, maybe the first time I did that, but I honestly was considering it a synthwave track, and then I threw in the like you say, the two-step double time. And it's weird. Every time I listen to that track, in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, there's gonna be a part here where it goes more drum and bass, and then it happens exactly that point. So it's like I exhausted it. It's like, okay, I can only get away with this kick, snare, kick, snare. You know what I mean? Like I only have so much tolerance for that, to be honest with you. But it works. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah,
just thought I'd go with it.
Timing, yeah, works.
Yeah, like I was saying, I shared it the other day with some people, and I was just keeping it simple. I thought it was, something that was cinematic. I was picturing like credits rolling at the end of a movie, and you know what I mean, like this kind of like emotional journey you're on, and there's like this track,
Well, I'd have to sit and watch the credits then. Gosh, like seriously.
or it could be video game stuff. I don't know, but yeah, it's fun to make, and yeah, but I'm gonna go ahead and play another track, which this one is in progress. I'm not even sure exactly what it is, but I guess we'll find out. So let's give it a whirl.
Is it over?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
that's actually not a completed piece. I should mention it's
I wanted more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's missing an intro, it's missing an outro, it's missing a middle part, but it's the meat of the track. So it's always I find whenever I share something that's in progress and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I gotta be careful with what I'm promising here, but I foresee a situation where I add an intro to it. So
What kind of rhythm is that? Like what time is that?
uh it's it is 4/4 time.
Wow.
It's 174 or 87 BPM, depending on how you look at it. So double time at 87, I guess. So there's a lot. I like the bass line, frankly, something that stands out for me, which might be an area that I expand on too. Who knows? I always it's easier to talk about something after it's done than before, but for sure that element I think is strong. It works. But yeah, well, and that's the new visualizer, by the way. So like I'm planning to add some more visualizers if I can figure it out into OBS, and similar to what Phil does. He's got like the different views or whatever. So hopefully I'll get to that. But anyway, yeah, thanks for listening. Like I say, I will probably spend some time and make it a more proper structure. It's just like I say, it's just like the meat of the track essentially right now.
I liked it.
Thank you.
Everyone seems to be sharing works in progress or historical things. It's kind of cool. It's in
Yeah,
keeping with all of that. That's nice.
yeah, just a little bit of yeah. I have a lot of tracks that I've been working on, and so this is one of them, and so yeah, hopefully it'll get done. But yeah, I guess I don't need to spin the wheel. Richard, you're the next contestant. I can
Oh,
make it official if you like, just
so just before
for drama.
I did send you in a second file there, Lenny.
Oh, okay.
So when Richard's done, we could go to back. There was another one I got through for you. Sorry, just
Yeah,
one.
no problem. Yep, sounds like a plan.
And after the session started, Lenny, when you suggested we send in a second track, I sent you a second email message. I don't know if you saw that one.
I did, Richard,
Okay.
and yep,
All right.
I'm
Cool.
ready. I'm ready for both of them. But
So,
yeah, tell us about the first track to start off with.
well, why don't we start with the second one first? Since I mentioned the subject earlier. So, this is it's a historical piece. I'm going to put a URL in the chat. Oops. Well, let me do that again. Operator error. All right. So this was recorded on a Wavemaker 4 synthesizer back in the 80s. It's one of these pieces that I've been pulling off of these master tapes. Right now, we're evaluating how many pieces are worth listening to, what shape they're in, and been talking with Phil Meadows and other folks about how to lightly process this without compressing it, and some techniques maybe that can bring the sound out, since these things were recorded on analog tape way back when. They've been transferred to DAT and now they're in WAV files. They sound remarkably good, in my opinion. But this is a short piece. I selected last time. I think I played an 11-minute piece, Lenny, and everyone was really patient as we listened to the whole thing. This is like 3 minutes and a half or something like that, or even less than that, I believe, a couple of minutes. Just to give you some idea of what sort of avant-garde electronic music was back, some 40 years ago.
Yeah, and no, but you're always welcome, Richard, to send longer
Wh-
pieces. But hey, yeah, what
I thought you, I thought you were going to say welcome to send in weird shit, and that's good too.
that
So,
too, that too. Yeah, either one works.
all right.
Let me
Okay.
set this up and we'll give it a listen. So the second track first, right? Yeah. Okay.
Trying to remember here, sent
That's great. That's great, Richard. That's amazing.
I really like that.
Yeah, I never cease to be amazed that all of these crazy and that's just an example. There's all sorts of wild animal sounds and howling monkey sounds, just weird stuff that came out of that machine. So, but it was a short one. So, even if it's grading, it's only 2 minutes long, so it's over.
I could have listened to it for longer. You know, I was getting into it. It's
There's another piece. Some evening when it's just you and me, Lenny. I'll play it. It's like 15 minutes long. It's called "Watching Supernova," and it's like a sun in the sky that starts to disintegrate. And it takes 15 minutes for the sun to fall apart. Uh,
right
but
on.
it's a
Okay.
lot.
Wow.
It's a lot to ask people to listen to.
No, we'll figure out a way. You know, maybe we can put it at the end, and you know, I think a lot of
That's a good
people
idea.
would be into it.
Hmm.
You know, I
It's
certainly would
engage.
be.
It becomes engaging after a while. It's different than what a lot of people are used to listening to. But once you start to accept it, the sounds themselves are really compelling. So
Yeah, it's so
I
organic. I know we mentioned it last time, but the sound of those older analog synths, I don't know if it was just because it's direct voltage control. It just really blends
and
into nature. I mean, it
and what I'm realizing too is a lot of it simply was the composer. His name is Rick Peterson. A lot of it was just this guy's finesse. He had an incredible ear and incredible patience because a lot of that was derived by having tape loops. There were multiple recording machines, and it was mixed. I mean, the final piece itself was mixed in real time. That's how it was realized. Amazing stuff.
you
People
know,
don't
and
do
the
that
thing
sort of thing
about tape
anymore.
loops is that the lengths were not necessarily, you know, like a grid in a MIDI, you know, pattern or whatever.
They could
Like
be, but they
they
usually they
could
usually
be,
weren't.
or but
Yeah.
a lot of times they're not, and you're basically literally splicing together tape, right? So
Yep. Yep.
like it's a different, you know, like metric basically at the end of the day.
Right. You could really get some really interesting, polyrhythmic sounds simply because one loop was a foot and a half and the other one was 2 feet long, right? And just
Right.
when the pattern repeats, it's just all sorts of stuff that
Yeah, and that's the thing.
it's
Some of
hard to
these
do
loops
these
were
days.
big, right? Like I've seen video like or film or photographs anywhere. There's like loop like tape like reeled around. Like it could be like, you know, I don't know, 10 feet. Pretty wild.
Those were the original tape delay and echo machines. They had very long tape loops. There's a famous Roland box. There's all sorts of VST emulations of it these days, but it was essentially 2 feet by 1 foot, and you open up the top. There was a giant tape loop all squinched in there. You could get
Really? Wow.
delays of two. I'll see if I can find a picture of it, but there's many VST emulations of it now. Arturia has one. I was just looking at one the other day. Lots of folks have emulated it. The delays were incredible, and then of course if you were a poor musician like I was, you couldn't afford to replace that loop, and so you use the heck out of it. The more you use the machine, the more the oxides fall off the tape, and it sounds crappier and crappier the more you use it. But that itself was an effect. You get these long, incredible, drawn out echoes, and with decaying sound quality the longer it was. Anyways,
That's
analog
interesting. That's
technology.
interesting, yeah, because a lot of the I don't know if it's different with the chrome tape maybe or the metal tapes. Do they last longer perhaps? Because I swear to you, I pop in a cassette tape that I had from like 30 years ago and it still sounds good. So I don't know. But
Well, I
okay, sorry.
I was when I was listening to that at the beginning, Richard. I'm like, there wasn't, it hadn't fully, you know, evolved, and I'm hearing the nature sounds, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's like you're at the cottage, and there's the animals out there, and then it got a much more, alien kind of force moving into the picture. So yes.
There's an image of a Roland tape machine with the top open.
Okay. Wow, look at that thing.
Some
It's
some
like,
some of them had like 4 or 5 heads, and then you turn that center dial mode selector, and you're moving the distance between the heads. It's manually moving, a
Wow.
mechanical.
that thing looks like it's straight out of James Bond or something. It's like,
Yeah.
But just check it out. If you're interested in that sort of thing, you can get all sorts of software emulations of the very thing. There's several different versions of it out there. I know Arturia has one, but there's others.
wild. Okay, well, did you want to talk about the first track you sent then, Richard?
Sure enough. So I'm working on, every now and then I play music too, like everybody else. And this is not finished. It's under development. I don't know much to say about it. Eventually, I try and make up a story to talk about it. I'm not there yet. But what I'm mostly interested in is it's not mastered. It's not really even mixed. It's in process. When you listen to it, my question is, are the drums too loud, particularly at the beginning? That would be helpful if you all could comment on that.
Okay, let's give it a listen. And it's called Seen, Not Seen, is that true?
Seen and not seen.
Seen and Not Seen. Okay, all right.
Wow, it was a really strong finish there. That was pretty impressive. Wow, it was a really strong finish.
Thank you for that.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I enjoy listening to jazz, and you really do a good job at it, Richard. Now,
That's very kind.
well, I could go out and listen to that if you were playing. It would be difficult to get down to Northern Carolina, but it would be a pleasure. You had mentioned the drums. I do think that they're a bit loud at the beginning, unless you're Billy Cobham, and like then it's like right in there. But it's a good sound, like to the drum. But I just think it overpowers some of the music, which is subtle in the background.
Yep. You're confirming my suspicion, and I really appreciate that. So
Yeah, later in the song at different parts it works, but there's a couple of spots where I found it was overpowering. But it did have that Billy Cobham kind of like that. That's how he comes in on his stuff. But then the music isn't as delicate behind him, I find.
yeah,
Yeah.
those are libraries, the way files. So
I really wasn't sure myself because you asked the question, were the drums too loud? And I was like, definitely the drums were nice, that's for sure. I agree in the beginning, you definitely could, I focused more on the drums. I don't necessarily think that they were too loud from my perspective, but I would take Jeff's, you know, opinion or whatever.
But
Because
yeah,
I don't know, I'm just like a drum person, you know what I mean? Like, so.
and that's yeah. But I guess that's the thing is, what is it that you want people to focus on? Because if that's what you wanted people to focus on, then you've got it right. But
no, it's an awesome. Sometimes you get enamored with something, and when I stumbled across that library, I was like, wow, these drums are great. But yeah, they could be a crutch too. And so bringing them down, trying to make the music more, the melodic part of it more interesting.
Definitely in the
Yeah.
latter part of the track, I wouldn't touch it though. It was a perfect mix. In the
Okay.
beginning,
All
I
right.
could,
I
I
agree.
could, I
Yeah.
could understand that opinion. Let me put it to you that way. Even though
Yep.
I
Nope.
could
That's
understand the
good. That's good
opposite too,
advice.
but
Yep.
it
I
sounded
appreciate that.
great. Very chill. It really, I don't know if it was like a beach inspired or just, you know what I mean? But just, you know what I mean?
Uh,
Like just driving in a convertible or something, maybe. I don't know why. It just had this beach vibe to it. But relaxing, like a kind of very relaxing. And I've said this before, like the sound quality is just so clean and like pleasurable just from
Yeah.
that aspect too. You know what I mean? So, and I'm
I'll
always
try.
amazed. Like I don't know. Like perhaps the instrument choices don't overlap, but everything, all the frequencies. There's no mud basically. It just sounds very clean and. Do you do a
Yep.
lot of tweaking? I'm just curious, or do you just sort of keep
More and
adding?
more. I'm learning, like everybody else, how to get in there and tweak. Andrew, your comments from earlier about not tweaking, I'm coming out of that. I'm figuring it out, and uh, my concern, I guess, is to focus on the sound and not just get into the gimmickiness of it, So, but you open up an instrument, you fetch, oh, this sounds good, and then uh, even opening up the filter a little bit here and there, it's the same voice, but it sounds brighter, in other places, you want the rhythm there, but just closing down the filter a little bit, and it's in the background a little further because it's not as bright. Little things like that. I've only really gotten comfortable doing that in the last year or so. So it's a journey for sure.
What instruments are you using, Richard?
Oh my goodness, there's tons. There's that thing has maybe, I don't know, 25 different tracks.
Wow.
I really do enjoy a lot of the software emulations of older synthesizers, analog synthesizers and what have you. I just like the filter sounds that they have.
Yeah, yeah,
There were
and
several. Korg, Korg emulations in there of machines from the 80s and the 90s. Arturia software emulations of, like CP80, Yamaha synthesizers from the 90s, things like that.
Yeah, I think that's why often when I'm listening to your pieces, I think I'm listening to some of the jazz fusion sounds from the 80s and the 90s. Yeah,
I'm I'm
from the
wor-
80s particularly.
I'm definitely inspired by that, and nothing like listening to Chick Corea or George Duke or somebody like that. And Andrew, I liked your piece because you did. It seemed to me, I'm assuming that you did. There was melody played. It seems like you played melody, and folks don't.
Yeah.
I just don't hear that much. And so I'm toying. I'm playing with that. I'm just trying to make that happen, and I'm just a terrible keyboardist. So,
It did sound like that on that last track, though.
well, thank you. I'm getting better at it, and a lot of that is in the editor, just you do what you can, and then you open up the editor and look at all the events and go, oh my God, and just
Yeah.
start moving stuff around, and then just making it sound natural, even though the way it's arrived at is entirely not natural, that it takes a while.
It,
That's
it sounds so natural, so it's amazing every time I hear you say that. I remind myself, okay, wow, I just picture you like playing it all, and it just
I would love to,
sounds.
I would love to, in the pitch wheel and all that stuff, like those guys used to do. Joe Zawinul, another one, Jeff, that just captures my imagination. But I really appreciate it, and super comments. I'll
One
keep
last
working on.
comment
I'll
I
keep
forgot
working
to
on it.
mention. You had a variation at one point in the track. I think it was like maybe two-thirds in or three-quarters in, where I don't know if it was a bridge or a change in the melody, but it was a nice little. I mean, you had a lot of changes, but that one really just it was just a nice touch, basically, and
Well,
really worked well. The arrangement.
yeah, I thank you for that. And so there's essentially four sections in it, and maybe what you're commenting on is about halfway through the time signature changes from 4/4 to 3/4.
Okay, okay.
And then I
Yeah, I wasn't
experimented
sure.
with changing tempo also, and that was just too much. So it's all the same tempo all the way through. I forget 120, 130 beats per minute or something like that. But yes, it switches from 4/4 to 3/4, and boy, um, there's a whole story there. I won't bore you with it, but I'll just say this: there's really benefit in collaboration with other people. And so in addition to my little recording project with this guy in Austin, which is all tape stuff from 40 years ago, I'm also now recording some other people. There's a classically trained clarinetist who's switched to the Akai Iwi, the electronic wind instrument, because he wants to play MIDI with his, clarinet sort of thing. And so I've been recording that, and it's really, it's the approach to recording is not at all what I would do. And at first, it was a huge sort of departure, but a lot of it forced me to explore parts of the DAW that I'd never really even. Oh, I could do that. Okay, I'm learning all sorts of things in the software I've been using for 10 years now. And so I'm just touting the benefit of collaborating with other people because it forces you out of your comfort zone into new stuff. So that part of it is that it's just I'm exploring other things that said, hey, I did it on this other piece. I'll do it on this one. That's my own. And so I learned some new stuff.
Yeah,
Never
for
too late
sure. Yeah,
for
and
real
that happens
doubts.
a lot of times I find with this meetup too, and other meetups where, you're talking to other people using similar tools or the same tools, the same DAW, and it's like, wow, there's like features there that I've never even looked at, and suddenly it's like, okay, that's pretty,
I'll bring in
useful to know.
this
So
this electronic wind instrument piece that I'm working on. It sounds like a Gregorian chant
Oh
really,
yeah.
with
wow, okay, that
it's
sounds
I'm working on cavernous sound, making it sound like they're in a cathedral somewhere. Getting
Sounds
and
great.
part of it is the iwi itself because the breath part of it lends itself to very expressive sounds, but also I'm capturing the MIDI output. And so with that, I can select it in any number of instruments to go along with it. So it's proving to be interesting also. I'm not ready to show that one because it's all over the place and kind of messy, but I'll bring it in a while.
Wow, I look forward to it. That sounds really cool. Awesome. Thanks again, Richard. Really appreciate.
Guys, I
Sure.
enjoyed tonight because people dragged stuff out, maybe not finished and, showed, aired the laundry, so to speak. And I mean, I was thinking about it, but I really did enjoy it. It's sort of getting an extra insight into people. And like I was saying earlier, the sort of evolution of where, especially if the older pieces like Paul was playing, it's like, wow, you hear what they produced today and what they were doing 10 years ago. It's like, whoa, an
Yes,
evolution. It's cool.
it's
Well,
amazing
I really
how
enjoyed it.
fast things have changed even. Like the new normal, I hate to use that expression, but you know what I mean? What we consider music production now, like even from maybe 2 decades ago, like wow, like it's way different. For sure from the 90s even further. But Jeff, you had another track you
Yeah,
wanted to
I
play,
sent
right?
one, and I'm very
Okay.
interested in getting your opinion on this one. It's quite different than my last piece, and it tends to be, I'd say, a bit more jazzy and a little more finesse. Yeah.
Okay, let me line this up.
Okay.
Bells 5, is that the right
Yeah,
track? Okay.
and it has, the title has really nothing to do. It's just a working title.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's give it a listen.
Yeah, so that was a piece that I probably wouldn't have been able to bring together. I would say even 6 months to a year ago. So,
Yeah, it's pretty. What's the word? Like energetic. It has like pretty good sound quality too. You're saying you made this 6 months ago?
no, no, I said I wouldn't have been able to make it 6 months ago.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I think just that uh, I think that I've gotten a better ability now to just sort of do a mix. I would have got stuck in mud with that, yeah, and to be able to get the distinction and to get the instruments, because I tend to take stock sounds that are in Apple Logic and I create my own sounds by tweaking. And so a lot of the stuff that was in there was actually massaging the the various elements, like the envelopes or the saturations or the and so on, in order to get some of the sounds in the brass or the bass and things like that. And so yeah, a very slow learning curve, I have to say.
Shoot, I still have this on the screen. Sorry about that. But yeah, no, the mixing and whatnot. Yeah, it was. I didn't hear any mud actually. It was clean.
Oh, it was clean. Sounded good. I think that's the way, everybody learns at their own pace, right? And I don't know, maybe the more you do it, the faster it comes. And of course, we all have busy lives. Who's actually doing
Mm,
this all the time, anyways? But
right.
that's interesting that you think you could see your own progress in a 6 month period. That's awesome.
Um, a lot of it's the feedback and the challenge of bringing things here, and also the fact that, for example, Richard, you're doing some things that are jazz, and so all of a sudden I go, okay, there's people here who might be interested to listening to the sound as well, right? Like I've got one that I'm working on that's very much sort of like on a Coltrane kind of approach, right? Like I should say Coltrane with like but very calm down. The my favorite things where he's uses the like he's using a tremolo a lot effect, right? But to be able to create an instrument and to be able to get a sound out of it, it is often a real challenge, right?
Absolutely. I think imagining the sound itself, just having a picture in your head, in your mind of what the sound is that I'll know it when I hear it, just
Hmm. If I could ask, with the first song that I did, Alvin 13, from a sound quality, the sound quality come out okay on that, or was it a little out of control? I mean, I recognize the song is it's just meant to be like 21st century schizoid man sort of thing, right? Like, it's meant to be like a helium blast. But did the production hold on that? Or can you suggest anything on that one?
Sounded okay in terms of the
all,
production.
all of the elements I think were audible and with in the right level. I think maybe if I had to offer some constructive criticism, it might be if there in cases where you've got a lot of action happening, a lot of lines happening simultaneously. I don't personally think that one needs to dominate them all, but sometimes when you're listening, the brain is trying, of all these things, what am I supposed to be focused on? And if they're
Right.
all of equal intensity, equal amplitude, it's kind of hard. Maybe your attention doesn't know where to go in that. So
Mm.
And so maybe thinking what the lead is, the instrument is, and then, maybe raising that a bit and bringing some of the other items back in the mix a bit. Or
You're
like I was
and that,
saying, or closing the filter a little bit so they're not quite as bright and they recede, even though they're the same intensity. They're just the frequencies that are being are coming through are lower. Just some suggestions on maybe because you've commented several times on you got stuff going on or it's different things happening. I like the danceability of it. It had impressions of I don't know anything about old foxtrots and early types of dance from the 20s and 30s, and modern dance too, and so you had all sorts of ideas, musical and otherwise, going on, rhythmic ideas happening simultaneous, and I'm okay with that, but just thinking a little more conventionally, folks might want to, the brain might want to know, what of all of this do you want me to focus on right now,
so you
and
think
give that.
to bring out the oboe more and drop some of the other stuff back a little bit. Is that like the sound of it?
I would imagine, though, through the piece, different instruments might rise to the surface more and then
Mm.
recede. And then in another section of the song, you might bring some of the other instruments that are more in the background up and bring the oboe down, for example. That would create movement and maybe a little more sonic interest in the piece. Because one thing I watch out for is, you've got the rhythm, just to make sure, every now and then you switch it up, like Lenny was saying, that's about as far as I can get away with that. And before I want to change it up, just to keep people's interest. Same with
Okay.
the melody, as you move through the composition, bring these certain sounds up to emphasize them, recede other ones in another part. Maybe the lead moves to one of the other instruments, for example.
That or even a
The
third.
oboe
Yeah,
recedes,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then the other instrument comes up in the mix, and maybe in brightness as well. And all of these are are techniques, I guess, to keep the interest of the listener and keep the ear engaged. Um, just a suggestion.
Yeah, I like what you're saying. In fact, maybe like there's like the beginning of the end, but the middle part, I could almost even bring in a different instrument to take the lead, like
Or
even
even
more like a trumpet or something like that, that would give it a break from that really intense kind of sound of the oboe.
well, and another so-called trick, air quotes trick, might be just introduce another voice, and then just move that same part to another voice, just playing the same part on a different sound, a different instrument
Mm-hmm.
itself, or and transposition, play the same part, transposed. Even as simple, I oftentimes play the same part and just lower it an octave. It has a where it's bright in one piece and another piece, it's the same part. It's just lowered in register and it just sort of recedes into the background a little bit. It's not quite so prominent, and some other instrument can take the lead and sit on top of it, for example.
My trick, this may not apply to this track, mind you, right? But just on the going down an octave thing, I don't know if this is from a guitarist perspective, but two semitones, so not a full octave. If you really want a variation on a riff, it's like a real go-to for me. Like I can, if I'm like really struggling, I'm like, okay, I gotta switch this up. What can I do? Or even up two semitones sometimes. And like on a guitar, you can sort of see how that.
Yeah, actually, I've been going back to my guitar a bit more lately from a composition point of view, and I'm looking at bringing it back in because it was something that used to do like 10 years ago was with my guitar rather than doing the electronic stuff at all. It was all most of my stuff was on guitar, and but the part of being able to drop or go up a few octaves like that, yeah, is something that is a really good idea. And the guitar,
Let me ask you a question. If I don't know if you have the answer, but guitar solos, right? I oftentimes was wondering. I would see these rock bands, and you'd hear them do their famous song live, and it was like not the same. And then I heard that they have different tuning a lot of times for the solos, or they're in a different key. Is that make sense
Well,
to you? Am I making this up? Like,
there's a few things I think that are going on here. Is that, for example, Jimmy Page was a studio musician for years and years and years, and he often was recording the guitar solos for many of the rock bands because they could not play their stuff well enough to be recorded.
right? Okay.
So um, the person who was playing on stage is not necessarily in pop bands, rock bands, is not necessarily the person who's playing it in the
Oh,
recording
right, right.
studio.
Yeah, no, I'm
So,
thinking. Yeah, that's
uh,
true.
so that's a big factor. And then, but how many people that you get out there really knew how to play in rock? Um, so I think that's because I love going to hear rock bands, but I mean Santana could play it, like he could play it, and he came across and like a George Benson, he can play it. You want to hear somebody, Frank Zappa, like he could play it, like he was like. But a lot of the other people, I think they rely on fuzz, distortion, and and like they're really not trying to. They're not hitting the notes.
A
Okay.
lot of it, Lenny, too, is the head that the guitars run through, and to Jeff's point, the compression or the distortion pedal or whatever. You're used to hearing it a certain way where it's been so treated on the album, and then you go hear them in concert, and they just can't quite deliver it in live on stage. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of
Yeah,
them could. A lot of them could. A
I
lot of
knew it was.
phenomenal
I'm trying to
players.
remember who it was. They had like the two necks on the guitar, so he could like they could do the main lead and then switch over to do the solo. But I was just curious if using a different key for solos was a common thing or not. So I suppose I can ask my Chat GPT, see what they have.
I would say ask a guitar player because
Yeah.
I ain't one, so can't say.
Yeah, I play, but solos is not really my thing. I tend to use it more from composing and more. I do a lot of more finger picking than I in chording, and so yeah.
Yeah, no, it's I don't know if it's come back. It sort of went out of fashion and back into fashion so many times, right? Like guitar solos. Like I remember in the 90s, Metallica stopped doing guitar solos. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, these guys were doing guitar solos like all the time for, many records, and then suddenly it's like, oh no, we're not doing that anymore.
Well,
And there was
instrumentals.
then there was the Ramones. All energy, never a guitar solo. It's all
Oh
rhythm.
yeah.
Everything was. Everyone
Yeah,
had
they
their shtick,
they
I guess.
they played extremely fast live. Like I remember back in high school, I knew someone who was crazy about the Ramones, and it's like, you never saw the Ramones live. You don't know what it is until you do. It's
They
not the
hit that
same.
fever pitch, where you would expect the searing guitar solo to come, and they never did it. Just never did it. And
Yeah, well,
you
and I
know,
think that's what happened in the 90s because there was a lot of like the alternative stuff, the grunge stuff or whatever, and I think a lot of like the older style rock guys were like felt embarrassed all of a sudden, like, oh man, it's not cool. But I just think for the case of Metallica, they should have just stuck to doing guitar solos, and they came back to it, I think. But anyway, it's another topic. They can.
But nowadays, solos of any kind are almost seem to have disappeared from popular music.
There's a little bit in synthwave. You know what I mean? You'll catch a synthwave tune, and there's like that guitar. You know what I mean? That I don't think it's the
well,
same.
for most people, music today is the lyric. They
Mm-hmm.
listen to
Yeah.
vocal music, pop music, and oh, I love that song. The words mean so much. They reminds me of the time, and they're real. The music is secondary. It seems. I know I'm generalizing, but for the most part, it's the lyric that people call
And the
music.
personality.
Well,
Yeah.
look at the focus on the singer, right? I mean, there's entire programs, I believe, dedicated to the front person, right? And yeah, and even if you look at it historically in like pop music, it certainly has always been like the vocalist that typically will be like the front person, right? And you're right, the lyrics are a big deal. So it's interesting that most of us do like in this group instrumental stuff,
Yep.
but it's
Uh,
oh, but
couple of
obviously Vosto in the past, last time he had a vocal track, he does his own singing, Tiny
Oh, did
Bike. He
he?
had
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, yeah.
I
in
wish
in
I.
in
He
Russian
did
in Russian, as
a
I
Russian,
recall.
so
Oh, wow. Oh, I wish I got that.
a
Oh, that.
language he doesn't speak, by the way. So I mean,
Oh,
he sang a song in Russian and he doesn't speak Russian, so I gotta give him credit.
interesting.
So yeah, no, I give props though to people that do vocals, and I think as I oftentimes just the timing is just so different with voice, actually. You know what I mean? I'm so used to instruments, and then anyway, it's sort of. But yeah, no, I guess you're right. Like maybe the guitar solo will come back though. You never know. Maybe
Oh,
Taylor Swift's next big track will be this. She's listening now, getting tips from
mm-hmm.
us. So,
Mm-hmm.
but anyway, guys. Okay, well, thank you all for
Cou-
joining.
Just
Really.
before
Couple
you
of things.
go,
Couple.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
go
Go
ahead.
go ahead, Jeff.
No, you go ahead, Richard.
Okay, I'll do it quick. Lenny, in the chat are links to two
Yes.
different VSTs that emulate the hardware that I shared the image of.
Yep. Got
So
one
you
of
can
them
see
down.
Oh,
there's
thank you.
there's there's all sorts of variations of this. The other one's by IK Multimedia. Um, but that's a famous machine. There's so many versions of it, and inside the original one was like, you know, 6 feet of tape running across 4 or 5 different heads of it, that were movable, and that's how they got echo in those days. Second thing, Jeff, anytime you want to come to Durham, North Carolina and hear jazz, let me know. If you send me your email address, I will start spamming you with all the events happening because it is happening in Durham. It's just unbelievable the amount of music that's happening now. Most of it is jazz. I just listen to a lot of groups. Interesting related to our conversation from a few minutes ago. Almost none of it is vocal. It's all instrumental, extended pieces with a lot of improvisation. And if you think rock and roll is out of fashion, that for sure is. And yet
Mm.
they're doing it all over the place. So anything is possible. My feeling is as long as it's well executed, people who are doing it sincerely. And there's a lot of folks doing that. So
Oh, and I find Toronto just doesn't get a good draw on jazz musicians. So I do make it down to New York City a couple of times a year. But I think my trip would have to be a little longer. But if there's music involved, you never know. I'd like that. Thank you.
Yeah, good to hear. There's things happening in
yep,
North.
the next weekend is there's a link in the chat. Slingshot Festival's happening in Durham, 2 or 3 days. People coming from all over the world to
Wow.
play electronic music.
Come on.
It's
Wow.
no, I'm not kidding.
I got to look that up.
Next week in Charlotte, I was texting with Phil Meadows. That's where he lives.
Yeah.
There's a tiny little mini version of South by Southwest for the music industry happening in Charlotte. A lot of panels, information on startups, and how to get your career off the ground and that sort of thing. It's there's a lot happening. It's a very exciting time right now.
Okay.
Didn't mean to cut you off. Your turn.
Oh, not at all. Lenny, what day are you holding the October? Um, is it going to be the last, which is Halloween, or is it going to be the week before, the 24th?
I did not look yet, but let me take a quick
Because
gander.
usually, sometimes in these longer months,
It's on Halloween. Yeah, maybe I'll
yeah,
do it on the 24th then.
yeah. I
What do you
just
guys
was,
think?
yeah.
It's kind of a holiday, right? The 31st.
Well, and it is. So I I know that for myself, I won't be available on the 31st. So on the 24th, I would be available, but I don't know about others. But
Yeah, no, I'll keep that in mind. I think
okay,
I'm inclined to say I'll probably do the 24th, but I'll yeah,
it's a
eventually.
request then. Okay, all right,
I
if you
don't
can.
think that far ahead. You know what I mean? Normally it's month to month, but
Ah,
thanks for planting the seed. It's good to keep in mind. I do
thank you.
generally try to avoid holidays, but um, I
Also,
just
it's usually the fourth
people
week,
have
right?
parties and
So
stuff.
I think this is actually like, because that's the other thing. Usually you have it on the fourth week. Sometimes when there's been 5 Thursdays in a month, sometimes you've gone with the fourth. So
It's usually the last Thursday,
oh, okay.
but not to say that's always been the case. And you know what I
Mm.
mean? I know some people can't make it on Thursdays, and it sucks because you know what I mean. I think Fridays would be way worse personally.
Oh
So
yeah, no,
I
I think you
Thursdays
wouldn't
we'll
were.
get
have
the
to
same participation. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, I'll definitely. I am gonna book it right away though. Like I'm trying to get in the habit of booking the meetings with a lot of lead time.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can't make the 31st either because I'm going to go hear Rick Wakeman
Oh,
play.
come on!
I put
Excellent.
the
I heard him back in the '70s.
I put the link to that in the chat, Jeff.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. I
he's on
was.
his final old man tour. He's playing solo piano,
Oh
touring, doing
yeah.
Rick Wakeman stuff. So I thought
Okay.
I should go see that guy.
Well, I heard him with Yes in the '70s, and they gave him like 20 minutes just on his own, which was pretty amazing. Yeah. Well,
Uh,
that'll be good. Excellent. You'll love it. Oh, you're very fortunate to hear him.
yeah, that
Thank you. Really
sounds
enjoyed it,
great.
fellows.
Yeah,
See you
thank
next
you very
time.
much. All right, take care.
Lenny,
Thanks,
thanks for doing
everybody.
this.
Good night,
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
everybody.
Very
Lenny.
welcome.
Thanks,
Bye.
Andrew. Thanks,
Have a good
Richard.
night.
Okay.
Thanks for
Ciao.
everyone.